Welcome back to Gothic and Grim. I have been uploading a lot of my old content to this channel, so I just wanted to make sure that I'm also adding newer content to this channel as well. So in this video, I will be discussing Saturn, the planet Saturn, okay? And I'm just going to give a very general but somewhat detailed breakdown of dealing with Saturn and how Saturn affects things and how Saturn will affect things in your life. Saturn is a planet that is known for restriction, limitations, boundaries, and order. It is somewhat of a taskmaster depending on how you look at it, but it is a planet about discipline. And so the reason why I wanted to talk about this planet is because Saturn has been in effect since, well, I would say this last transit lasted from 2000, I want to say this is 2026. I think it was 2024, like maybe towards the end or the middle of 2024. And it just, Saturn, that transit was Saturn in Pisces. And that was a tough transit for a lot of people. I did my research all the way through. It was a tough transit for a lot of people. I am going to wait to see the fallout from it. And I think that for some reason, I guess from where the world is, Saturn was a lot more difficult to deal with or to navigate than maybe previous transits. And it also has to do with what other planets are in transit and how that works with you. But for a lot of reasons, transit was this Saturn and Pisces was a very tough transit for a lot of people. And I did just really want to talk about that, especially on a personal level and from things that I've seen with people. Like I said, Saturn is known for limitations, structure, like lessons. It teaches you lessons, right? Now, a lot of people, they always talk about Mercury. And that's how you know people really don't know what they're talking about. Like, there's a lot. Don't get me started on the pseudo spiritualists on YouTube. I'm gonna skip that. However, a lot of people always think that Mercury does the most damage. Mercury can have an effect, but Mercury's transits maybe about a month or two, and then it moves on. Like, its retrograde is really what you have to worry about. And it really depends on if Mercury is in your like what sign it is. If you're under Mercury, like if you're an air sign, then you might have to somewhat worry. You may be more sensitive to its effects, but that really depends. But when you talk about like real transits, like maybe Neptune's transits are like damn near a decade, or like I want to say maybe 14, 18 years. Let me just triple check that. Neptune's transits, because we'll get into that too, and we may just get into that on Patreon. However, Neptune's transits are very long term, yeah, and they last for about 14 years, 13, 14 years, right? But in Neptune, depending on the lessons that you have to learn, it may be a tough transit for you as well. However, Saturn kicked a lot of people's butts, okay? We're going to get into it. Okay, so going back to it, Saturn is about limitations, structure, karmic lessons, restrictions. Just think of restrictions, okay? If you are dealing with trying to use Saturn in your energy work, I've heard of people using Saturn in their energy work for like punishment spells, like revenge spells. That's how serious Saturn is, okay? But Saturn, if you are a free spirit, if you are a go with the flow type person, if you are a person of excess, if you are overweight, if anything that you like to do too much, when Saturn is in your particular house, it comes to check you and it restricts that. And that's what you kind of like. If you're one of those people, you kind of don't want that. Like, you don't like it. But the lore is that Saturn operates in a way that teaches you lessons so that you learn structure and order. And like, if it restricts your money, then once it moves out of that particular house, you'll learn lessons so that you don't spend so much, or that you can develop long-term wealth, right? So that is the lore, okay? But reality of it is like, okay, Saturn may have been in your 10th house, your 4th house, your 6th house, your 7th house, your 8th house, your 2nd house. Okay. And that's something you all will have to look up individually. And if you're on my Patreon, we can get into that later. However, this last transit is, just generally speaking, just from doing my research, it was a very hard transit. And that transit was another reason why I came back to restart this channel, because there's important information that needs to get out, that so that people can better navigate their lives. Saturn's transit was about restriction, and depending on what sign you are, it posed a lot of restrictions as far as finances. There were several signs that were had problems with money, and I will say that was Gemini, Sagittarius, and there's one other sign too. I can't remember, but you had to be like, when Saturn came into your house. Say it came into your 2nd house, maybe it came into a 10th house. You got to check your money houses, like the 10th, the 5th, the 2nd. There's all different types of money houses, and this is very important. Like I said, we're gonna get into that this year. This is 2026. This is how Gothic and Grim does it. This is a lifestyle. We don't play occult. We don't play astrology. We don't play spirituality over here. We do the real thing. Okay. So you have to check and see which house Saturn went into, and you'll see which problems you had the worst of, okay? And which was caused by a lessening of. So what if it was in, let's first say, so Saturn was in Pisces, for example. I was, so you have Saturn, which is a planet about restrictions and limitations, but Pisces is about psychics, dreams, boundaries, escapism, things like that. Now, it depends on how well you prepared, on whether or not the transit will have a negative impact or a positive impact on the effects of your life, right? The thing about it is that everybody likes to say, oh, it's just here to teach you a lesson. It's not going to mess up your money. Dude, I know people who lost jobs. I know people who drive, Benzes, who have been reduced to Instacart, honey. I know people who were raking in the money, was flossing. And I was like, this person's birthday is right by mine. How is this person flossing? And I'm sitting up here, having to count my pennies, flip them over on the other side and recount them, flip them back over to that side and count them again and try to make 5 cents. How are they doing it? They had no idea, right? So I'm just sitting back and I'm just watching, because, we're occultists, we're scientists, and we're just watching, right? So come to find out, one of the people who was like driving the Benz, he later, like way months later, I guess Saturn was like really spanking that ass. And hey, I'm not saying that as any form of, not like disrespect. No, I know Saturn. Me and Saturn, I'll get to that on my Patreon. But I know Saturn. Me and Saturn, sometimes I love Saturn. The grown-up adult in me loves Saturn. The businesswoman in me loves Saturn. The very analytical part of me loves Saturn. But the other part that's a little bit too close to the free spirit in me hates Saturn. And so I'm just like I said, getting back to my friend, I was wondering how they were flossing at the time. They were talking about all the jobs that they had, and spending, dropping all this money, all this time. And like I said, their birthdays were sort of close to mine. Well, one's birthday was close to mine, but the other one is under this transit as well. So, like I said, come to find out months later, the friend, he told me he lost his job, that he had been unemployed for a while, but he didn't tell me that. And I'm just kind of wondering, like, I'm like, why did he never tell me that? He acted as if, everything was fine and, things were normal. But he never told me that. So I was kind of like, like, why are you, like, you telling me this now? Why are you telling me this now? And I thought that, everything was fine the way that you were acting. So come to find out, now he's even, like, doing Instacart, has been looking for a job. And the funny thing is, he's been looking for a structured job. So I'm kind of wondering, I'm like, why is he's looking for a structured job, which you would think Saturn would favor. But for some reason, he may be doing better now. I got to check on him. He may be doing better now. But last time I heard, he told me he wasn't doing, like, real financially at all, right? And he had been staying home. He had, like, not been going out. That's Saturn. Saturn will break you down. If you are not prepared, if you don't know, it's not just about saying, "Oh, Saturn is a planet of restriction. It does this. It's limitations." If you are either not one of those people by nature, if you are not like an old money type or a person that's anal and titan and this and penny pinching by nature, if that's not your nature, you're gonna have a difficult time with Saturn. It will wreck your life. So that was one person whose life I saw get turned upside down. I'm surprised he didn't even turn in his bins, because that's how severe Saturn is, right? Okay, the other friend, like I said, the other friend was buying furniture and wanted to travel here, got the passport. He thought he was going to be flossing. Well, under this transit, so we talked about Saturn. Okay, well, Saturn was in Pisces, so let's look at the sign that it's in. Okay, so when we talk about Saturn and Pisces, we deal with escapism, forcing dreams, boundaries, a lot of spiritual and emotional things, right? So it's supposed to restrict that. But if you are naturally that type of person, you're going to have a hard time restricting something that is natural to you. Like I said, if you're an excess spender, if you are a free spender, and you're used to just spending money like it's hot, Saturn's gonna break you down. So, with the other person that we're talking about right now, he's not spiritual at all. Matter of fact, he's an alkie. But he was working 3 jobs at the time. He was working 3 jobs. 3 jobs is excess. Saturn don't like excess, right? What did Saturn do? Over that time period, lost 1 job, lost a 2nd job, and now he is part-time at his 3rd job. Part-time. All this money that he was flossing and making it rain, he's not doing that anymore. He's not doing that anymore. Saturn don't play, okay? Like I said, he wasn't spiritual at all. He was always an alkie. I bet he's even harder now because of the restrictions that Saturn has had. But Saturn was trying to teach him a lesson. Excess. We talked about excess. Excess what? Excess alcohol. He was a big drinker. I can tell you that there's going to be some signs of that to come for him. He probably won't tell me, but he's had so many signs. I've seen him get thrown out of bars during this period. I've seen him act up. I know the jobs that he has lost. I know about the jobs that he's lost because I've been to those jobs. He is like really I would say that I can sense that he has a very short amount of time to still be an alkie. Saturn doesn't play, okay? For me, Saturn, I tried to start businesses under Saturn. tried to start one type of business under Saturn. Saturn was like, no, no. Saturn made the money trickle in. I worked 80 times as hard, got anhedonia, like basically walked away from everything. That's Saturn. Saturn likes structure. It's not a money planet. It's not Jupiter. You're not going to get rich under Saturn unless that's just not, it's not in that particular house. Now, Saturn's going to go in everybody's house now. It's just the way that it's just, you have to understand which house is going in, into what sign, and how you specifically relate to that. And that's the ticket of dealing with Saturn. Like I said about my businesses are still there, but I've had periods when I had to leave them dormant because Saturn would just turn off the money line, just literally turn it off. And this, we're talking about Saturn and Pisces right now. Saturn is out of Pisces. Thank you, good riddance, don't ever come back. But as far as spirituality, my spirituality changed a lot during Saturn. I'm going to get more into that on Patreon, because that's some meat for my people who are really in this, not really for just passersby on YouTube. But Saturn really had an effect on my businesses. Like I said, they're still standing. They also had an effect on my spirituality. I'm going to get into that on Patreon because that's Patreon worthy. It had an effect on my health. It had an effect on every single area. And I believe Saturn was just in my 10th house at the time, 10th house, and in Pisces. And like I said, and this goes for just about like any sort of situation, you have to know how all of these planets work, how they work in your houses, and the effects that they're going to have. I've read about so many people who have lost their house during this transit. They had to move in with other people. They lost their jobs. That's like the first to go. A lot of people lost their jobs. They lost or they quit their jobs. So they quit or they lost. But in my friend's situation, he got fired. So you'll lose the job that you have when that transit comes through. You'll lose that job. It's about no access. So at the time of this job, like I still had, this is around the time when I shut my Patreon down. Why did I shut it down? And I want to apologize, but at the time that I had my Patreon, I was working like 40 plus hours a week. I was trying to keep the Patreon, and I was in school full time. Saturn was like, girl, no. I had never experienced cortisol in my body before. I was so inflamed. I had got up to I had gained like 17, 18 pounds full of cortisol. Full of cortisol. I was working out. I was trying to do everything. I was so close to a stroke, I didn't even know it. My blood pressure was always high. I was so close to a stroke. I was in a totally different field too. Like I said, I'm going to get into that in my Patreon with a lot of my patrons. I'm just giving y'all a little bit of taste right here because we keep it real here on this channel. But like I said, Saturn affected my health, definitely my money. It affected my spirituality. It affected everything just in this one house, just in Pisces. Okay. How did I survive it? I'm an occultist. I better survive this shit. I can't call myself an occultist if I can't survive something like this. That's just kind of how that's how I think. It's not about winning. It's not about not having anything bad happen to you. It's about, if you are in a position to teach, if you are in a position as a knower, if you are a leader of some sort of information, you better be able to apply that to your life, okay? And make it work for your life before you're trying to tell other people or dispense this knowledge to other people. So how do I look being broken and out of there? And I've had people come to me about the occult over the last almost 10 years. So how do I hit rock bottom and I can't, but I can't, how am I teaching you all, but I can't teach myself? I can't use the information that I was given. Okay. We don't roll like that. We're not false leaders and false teachers over here. So I applied everything that I've learned. A lot of things that I've taught you all on my Patreon, I implemented into my life. And I'm telling you, I had to study a lot though. I had to study a lot. The occult is one thing, astrology is another thing. They are a powerhouse when you know how to work them together. Okay? There are some nuggets that I'm not gonna go into depth here, that I am gonna go into depth on my Patreon. My Patreon, it's gonna be a brand new deal. It's gonna be all this other stuff that we used to talk about, 2025. That's lightweight. That's level zero at this point. Where we are in the world, where we are in the game. We're not even talking about AI. That ain't even nothing. Where we are, how it seems that time is spinning, how events are happening at a faster pace, how there's so much hardship that is happening, how this part of the country gets 20 feet of snow, but this part is untouched, but it gets snow. We breaking all of this down because all of this is connected, and all of this is things that we need to think about and prepare ourselves for. And when I say prepare ourselves for, I'm not talking about like a prepare for like zombie apocalypse. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the zombie apocalypse of the mind and the energy and the spirit. That's what I'm talking about. That's the type of zombie apocalypse that I'm talking about. In order to be able to still stand, you have to understand how all of this works. You have to understand how Saturn works. You have to understand how Pluto works, how Mercury works. We don't get us over here, and I hope that I get back, because I know I restarted this channel, and I hope that I get back a lot of my old viewers and subscribers. We over here, we never were people who were just like, liked our spirituality in pellets. We didn't like that, Mercury's retrograde, and thought that we were doing something. We didn't do that over here. We were people who studied. We looked at different books. We studied a wide array. We looked into the tarot. We are well versed in meditation. Shout out to my Patreon member who was talking about, who talked to me about meditation and groups and things like that. We're definitely going to cover that again. I left all that old Patreon information up. But like I said, we're going to retouch on that as well. But all of this information that I'm discussing has an effect. It's all interconnected. It's all connected. And I survived it by realizing that these systems of knowledge don't run parallel, that they're all connected, that my previous experience with Saturn, even though it was in a different house, in a different planet, that I would have to maneuver a certain way because it's in a different house, in a different planet. And I was going to have to see what are the patterns, what are the similarities, what can I use from a previous lesson to kind of lessen the blow, because it didn't hit everyone in my sign very hard, but it hit a lot of us very hard. Like I said, I read about a lot of people who lost their homes, lost their jobs, were damn near homeless, that sort of thing. And I could have ended up like them. I could have. And I saw that. But what did I do? Did I go to my spirits? Did I go to the occult? Actually, no. Not in the way that you think. And like I said, we're going to discuss this on my Patreon. I didn't go to the occult in the way that many people would think. But I did use the bare essence of the occult knowledge. Okay? And what I mean by that is, a lot of us consider the occult to be a science. We call it the occult sciences because it's about balance. It's not about all this freaky deaky stuff that you hear about on YouTube and in Hollywood. That's not what it is. That's not. There's an underlying foundation of it, just like mathematics and just like everything else. And what I did was look at all of that and weigh all of that. And did I need to be emotional to deal with this? Did I need to bring all my energy to do a lot of energy work to make this shift. No, it's in Pisces. It restricts escapism. It restricts a lot of dreams and a lot of things like that. Things of mental energy. It restricts a lot of that. Now, did I have some mental or spiritual work happen during that time period? Yes, I did. But that can be in accordance with it, or it could be separate. It depends on how you want to look at it. However, I had to think my way through this. I had to think my way through this so that I can still be standing, so that I can keep a roof over my head while Saturn turned my money source off. Okay? Because that's what it did for a lot of people. A lot of people. So many people probably won't even tell you how hard a time that they were having, because I know people who were close to me who didn't even want to tell me that they were like bone dry. They were flossing. I'm having people tell me just last week, oh man, I left that job. And I was like, what? You didn't tell me what? You left that job? Yeah. But really, they fired him. Saturn got you out of there. I'm telling you, these planets, this whole universe, it don't play. It don't play. It don't play. And I know, because I watch a lot of YouTubers, a lot of astrologers, and they always give you this sweet, fluffy side of these planets. Oh, but Saturn is about limitations. It's about this. Yeah, it don't tell you about all the people that are homeless now because of it, because they didn't know how to use it. They didn't know how to work with Saturn. It didn't tell you about all the relationships that were on the fringe. It didn't tell you about the people that died under Saturn. Passed away. Didn't tell you. They don't tell you about that. They don't tell you about how Saturn wrecks your health. How either you can gain weight, or if there's an imbalance, Saturn's going to deepen that and make you fix it the hard way. Teaches you hard lessons, not soft lessons. Saturn don't pat you on your head. It's not that type of planet. Saturn will drive a wedge between you and your spirituality base. It will drive a wedge between. It will make you think you ain't being heard. That your spirits or your spiritual foundation is not listening to you. That's why I ignore a lot of this YouTube stuff. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. A lot of these people know. Majority of them don't. They religionists. They're not spiritualists. They're not in spirituality. They're in religion. They don't know. And they damn sure is not going to come on here on YouTube and tell you things that I'm telling you about. They're not going to do it. If it's somebody else's business, they'll tell you. But they're not going to tell you what I'm telling you. That you putting a bug in your ear saying that you need to look out for these things. Mercury is not what you need to look out for. Saturn is what you need to look out for. Maybe Neptune. Maybe definitely Pluto. Pluto don't play either. Pluto don't play. What are you trying to do? You trying to start that business under Saturn? Well, we're going to have to check that out before you do it. You trying to move? We're going to have to check that out. You trying to start a business? Oh, we definitely going to have to check that out. Because your business won't make money. I know about people closing up their businesses down here throughout this whole thing. Even people on TV, people I don't even know, close their business down during Saturn. Saturn turned off the water. And people will say, oh, everybody give you this sweet version of Saturn. Oh, Saturn doesn't turn off your money. It doesn't restrict things. It doesn't, oh no, it lets you still have money. Really? Why a lot of people became homeless? Why they have to move in with people? Why they have to give up their home, their businesses, if Saturn doesn't act like that? Now, I know it's a hard lesson, but I'll tell you, I had to outthink this damn planet. That's how I'm still standing. I had to outthink it. Because once Saturn moves into your space, and if you're not spiritually sensitive enough to sense that it's moving into your space, it moves into your space and you're being this free spirit, or you're eating or just living the way you're living, it'll fuck with your health. You'll wind up in a hospital, and you'll wind up broke. Because it will silently, slowly turn off the faucet. Turn off the faucet to your health. Turn off the faucet to your money. Turn off the faucet to your livelihood. Turn off the faucet to your spirituality. and you won't even know what happened. You'll be like, damn, what, and I read so many posts, people talking about, man, my magic don't work no more. Who? Google on Reddit, people talking about, oh, my magic don't work no more. We're gonna talk about it on Patreon. I'm back, Mages. I'm back. Well, actually, I never left. I was just busy. Working with Saturn. Me and Saturn was having fist fights. Okay, we was duking it out. For sure, we was duking it out. But like I said, Saturn is in Aries right now, so we got to get ready for that. Some of us feel these transits coming in about 2-3 weeks before they show up. And of course, there's always some other things going on, but you really have to be a scientist to make it in this now. We see people lose their mind. We see more people are obese. More people are going broke, becoming homeless. We have celebrities, entertainers that ain't making no money. Saturn is doing its job, but people don't know what's going on. They just think, oh, it's just bad luck. It ain't no bad luck. You got to learn how to work with it. And that's why I'm doing this video on Saturn specifically, because a lot of people, I say Saturn is like hypertension and blood pressure. They call it the silent deadly killer. Your blood pressure get too high, you start seeing the flashes, or you start getting chest pains, and then you're on your way out. People die from high blood pressure all the time. The silent deadly killer, you don't even know. You've just been eating all that salt and all that food. Enjoying your food. You can be thin as a rail, high blood pressure. That's what Saturn is like, because nobody talks about it. Everybody wants to talk about, oh, Venus is the planet of love, and Jupiter is about expansion, and Mercury's retrograde. Everybody want to talk about the bullshit, but nobody talks about Saturn, Neptune, Uranus. Nobody talks about Pluto. Pluto's another beast. Well, like I said, we're going to cover it on my Patreon. I just wanted to put that here so that you all know what's going on. I'm going to post this to my Patreon first, and then YouTube will get it the next. But that's what we're going to be talking about, because this is the important stuff that people need to navigate. And before, I really wasn't in a position to help people as much as I am now. I don't know if that's by the work of Saturn, by me going through this. So now I'm a teacher of a different light with more information. But it definitely has increased my knowledge in ways that I never even expected. I thought, as an occultist, I knew some things, but and we go by experience, things that we've tested, over here on Gothic and Grim and on my Patreon. We talk about things that we've lived through, not theory. One thing I've grown to hate through this whole period is theory. People sitting up there talking about the theory of magic, the theory of this, the theory of what they think planets are supposed to do, the nicety side. No, we deal with the grit and the reality of what the planets actually do. And another point too. So I was watching this person on YouTube, right? And this person was also broken down, kind of lost his mind, in a way. I understand he was going through a spiritual rebirth, but for layman's terms, I would say he kind of lost his mind. Losing your mind is not a bad thing. It's only bad when you don't get it back. However, I kept telling him, about Pluto. And I was sending messages on YouTube. I was like, oh, you may want to check Pluto, or you may want to check Saturn. He's not going through a return. He's too old. But he showed that he kind of almost, quote unquote, lost his mind or lost his self. And he allowed us to watch it. And, you got the ignorant trash that comes on YouTube, and, they will point fingers and laugh and say, oh, ha, 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 you do this, ha, 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 you went through this. But as spiritualists and occultists, we sitting back there watching. We're like, I wonder what planet he's under. I bet you he's under this planet. He's under that planet. That's how you know when you get on your shit. When you can look at it, you can diagnose a person. And you can say, what's happening to you? You did this, you did that? Okay. What's your sign? Okay. Okay, you having a what do they call it, a malefic? You having a very hard transit. Okay, you doing this, and you say your money's tight too. Okay, you probably under, you know, this Saturn here, there's a Pluto this, and then you got a little bit of Saturn. You're dealing with Saturn and Pisces, but yeah, that's not working for you right now. So you got, you want to check that Pluto too. You know, that's what we become as occultists. We're not in that Jeffrey Epstein stuff. We'll talk about that later on Patreon though. But that's not what the occult is. That's what people try and think. Don't get me started on YouTubery witchcraft and what they think the occult is. But like I said, we as occultists, we are able to diagnose what you're going through. You know, we know something about this. We know something about that. We know something about numerology. We know something about uh, um, astrology. We know how things work in it. It is in depth and it takes a lot of time. So therefore, we don't tend to get into specifics with people because we have to go down your specific rabbit hole. Okay. So I'm gonna end this video because it's going on 40 minutes, but I just wanted to give you all a heads up on the direction and just make this a check-in video. And I just want to keep you abreast and keep your eyes open on Saturn, because Saturn is in Aries right now. And depending on the house that it's in, if it's your second house, that's your primary money house, you know. If it is in your third house, you have to look at your fifth house, your eighth house, your ninth house, your 10th house. You got to figure out which house it's in, because Saturn's going to be Saturn. However, you have to figure out what sign it is and what is going to be restricting and how that's going to work in certain things. The most important thing is that you need to think about first is what house it's in and what that house governs, and what is Saturn's main job. So it's going into that house to do a job. Okay. So like I said, I'm going to end this video now. Go ahead, comment, rate, and subscribe. Go ahead and join this Patreon. This is a different year. Like, we in such a different place. I'm making this big video and I feel so different. Shout out to Sinead O'Connor. I feel so different because number one, because of this planetary transit. Number two, because just all the information that I got. I feel like I got a different damn PhD. Like I got a damn different degree over the last 2 to 3 years. I've seen, like I said, with this planet touching every aspect of my life, I just have that much more information to give, like to the point that I said, I'm never working for another person again. I'm going to make this work. Hell, I'm a 33-6. For those, shout out to those of you who know about numerology, we going to get into that in my Patreon. But as a 33-6, I have to be able, like if I'm a master teacher, master healer, master this, we have all of these bits from all the other signs of the 11, the 22, the 33, whatever, the, you know, if we have that, those traits, this is the time to display them, and this is the time to put them to work. And I feel like Saturn has really helped me round out the information needed to go forward and expressing those traits. And it also told me I was on the wrong path too. We get into that on my Patreon too. A lot of times you all are in the wrong path professionally, and you do it for the money, but you don't do it for the soul or the spirit of the expression. That's another video. Okay, so thank you all so much for watching. Go ahead and sign up to my Patreon. It's there. This video was posted there first. Okay, because I want this video there. I will be uploading. I'll message. Sorry, I got so much going on. I will upload another video to both later. Bye.